have to say, the best part about entering your 30s definitely has to be a mix of unabashed confidence in your abilities and grueling student debt that will not leave your side for a very, very long time. At this point, it's my longest committed relationship. And that's also true for more than 44 million Americans who currently owe $1.6 trillion in student debt. And research shows that it'll take each one of us an average of 18 and a half years to pay off our loans. It seems that even in a pandemic, that's changed everything about how we function in public life, how we interact with fellow human beings, and how we make a living hasn't been enough for this country to reconsider the tuition model. Hi, I'm Sana, I'm still in debt, and this week I'm going to talk about how tuition fees are kind of a scam because of the system they've been built on. The fall 2020 semester is starting, and one would think, as many students have been arguing, that given how many universities across the country are conducting classes remotely, that tuition costs would go down. But that's actually not the case at all. There's no consistency in how higher education is approaching going to school in the midst of a pandemic and an economic crisis impacting everyone who's not rich or a corporation. Harvard isn't changing anything. Princeton is cutting its tuition by 10%, as are some other small colleges. Some are freezing tuition for the year, and then you have the University of Michigan, which is raising tuition by almost 2%. Students and parents are understandably annoyed. Tuition and tuition fees don't only cover fixed costs like professors' salaries, they cover the cost of using campus facilities like computers, libraries, dining areas, labs, and gyms. And sure, a lot of institutions have lost revenue due to giving refunds to students unable to use the housing and dining they had already paid for. Some schools have already begun closing, with an estimated 20% of all American colleges unlikely to survive the pandemic. And it's the way that the educational system has been built that puts us where we are today. The current financial model for much of higher ed in the United States is based on this MO: high tuition, high aid. In theory, schools charge full price to the affluent students who can afford it, while offering aid to lower income students to bring the net price down. But that actually doesn't help because the price of tuition is going up faster than the amount of aid being given out. And by up, I mean way up. Say hello to this chart. It's about to become your best friend and blow your mind. Over the past 40 years, tuition has gone up nearly 1,200%. Compare that to the average cost of everything else having risen just 228%. Americans as a whole spend annually about $30,000 per student, more than any other country in the world except Luxembourg, where tuition is free. So if we're spending so much money on education through grants and subsidies and loans, why is college still so expensive? Well, one major part of it is because of how much universities pay faculty and staff, which comes out to about $23,000 per student. And most of that is apparently going to non-teaching staff. It's also in large part due to how there's a three-tier education system: private, for-profit, and public, with the public college system being the biggest. But across the country, more and more states have been providing less and less funding to public colleges over the past 30 years, helping result in higher overall tuition costs. So increased cuts result in a scramble for funds, which result in increased tuition, all in an age where more Americans than ever before are pursuing a college education. So when I call tuition in this country kind of a scam, I call it that because of how poorly the model of college education has been built. It was never built to be accessible to everyone. And since public colleges aren't as much of a budgetary priority for so many states, it's made colleges cater to richer students. And this pandemic has exacerbated the financial burden of college. The lower income students who are losing housing, campus facilities, and networks, they've had to find affordable, quick solutions to adapt to remote learning. International students, who also tend to pay much higher tuition than local students and are aggressively recruited by colleges, are also not really in a hot place. Even though the Trump administration's visa plans have been thwarted by lawsuits for now, there's a lot of uncertainty about their future. So why not just get reduced tuition or just get rid of it entirely? Well, we do live in the United States. It's not just because the system of education isn't built to be free and accessible to all, but because it's going to take a lot more convincing politically, even though the majority of Democrats believe in tuition-free college. Arguments from both liberals and conservatives who find themselves usually on the same team with different uniforms revolve around diminishing the institution of higher education into a business transaction rather than something that can help everyone, help society. They don't, in practice, see education as a fundamental right. Here, tuition's function has gone beyond payment for education or for a service. It's become a financial prison, keeping tens of millions of Americans in debt. The idea of student loans has always been a weird one to me, especially if you're claiming to be a capitalist economy. Ensuring a large percentage of your population is in debt also ensures that their spending ability is limited, their economic output is constrained, and that hurts the overall growth of economic capital. So the TLDR of this video, don't go for that second master's, even though it's very tempting. Raise your hand if you're considering a second master's but can't afford it without going deeper into debt. Yeah, so everyone's been talking about tuition these days. What are your thoughts? Do you think school should be a lot more accessible than it is right now? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.